What's up, everyone? Today we are going to be talking about the Avatar and the Avatar's true power, because some people still, for some reason, underestimate or underrate this character's power, because I promise you, he really is powerful. Like, share, and subscribe, also comment down below on any thoughts you have about this video. Before we go right into it, I'm just going to state a couple of things. One being that a couple of the things in this video are going to be a bit hypothetical, because we don't really see the full extent of the Avatar's power sometimes, even though we know he could possibly do a lot more than what they've shown, obviously. And also, I'm not going to go through every little detail of every little thing the Avatar can do. I'm going to be more or less focusing on the bigger, more destructive feats of power that the Avatar has. And I will also be focusing very little on the Legend of Korra. By that I mean I will not be focusing on the Legend of Korra, and be focusing on Aang and every Avatar that came before him. Now, let us begin with the basics. Let's start with strength. How strong is the Avatar? Well, I'll be honest, Aang's physical strength isn't amazing, but it's definitely greater than how strong people actually think he is. Given the fact that at 12 years old, he's training with Toph, including him carrying a massive boulder on his back. That's just his general everyday training, which on its own is insane, because again, he's 12 years old, and this is just his everyday training. Come on, this is really big for Aang, in my opinion. It easily establishes him to be far above normal human levels of physical strength, especially, again, he's a 12-year-old child. And then in terms of speed, well, we know the Avatar characters to be really fast, with them almost always being able to react and redirect to lightning, which should put their reaction speed around that tier or greater. And then we know Aang also is pretty fast in terms of movement speed, as he could like run off buildings, or I don't know, run on water. And he was also stated to move as fast as the wind, and then we saw a clip of him moving so fast people could barely acknowledge his movements, which is absolutely insane. It truly shows how fast Aang actually is. Moving on to durability, well, Aang is also a bit more durable than people actually think he is, because he could tank a lot of attacks from a lot of different characters throughout the entirety of the Avatar series run. He tanked a lot of attacks from so many people, and he even tanked the lightning strike. I mean, he almost died from it, but he didn't die. And yeah, Katara did heal him, but the fact that he didn't die, because Katara's water doesn't bring people back to life. He was still alive, he had technically survived the actual attack, and he was just on the brink of death. And I'm sure by the end of the series, he should be able to take this attack, given that Zuko could tank lightning by the end of the series. And yeah, Aang's just really durable, tanks a lot of attacks from a lot of different characters, some characters who could create craters in the ground as well as destroy buildings. Now, moving on to hand-to-hand combat, Aang's also a better martial artist than people actually give him credit for, as he's able to consistently keep up with someone like Zuko, who is older and more trained, more experienced than Aang actually is, and Aang consistently keeps up with him in terms of hand-to-hand combat alone. Now, moving on to what really matters, and that is power. All the different elements Aang has to his aid. So we'll start with fire, okay? So I'm gonna be just kind of explaining why exactly these elements are not building level, and I'm gonna also obviously talk about their true extent of power. So firebending isn't the most destructive, okay? It's not the most destructive, I understand that, but it's also a lot stronger than you actually think when used by the Avatar in his Avatar state. I'm saying this because General Iroh is able to destroy the walls of Ba Sing Se with a powerful fire blast, whilst empowered obviously by Sozin's comet. And then you got Fire Lord Ozai, who could destroy this little ball of earth Aang had himself in. This ball was, by the way, created with earthbending and reinforced with airbending, and Fire Lord Ozai could destroy that, as well as kind of destroy a bit of pillars, cause a bit of craters on the ground. His firebending is really insane. And then, I mean, look at this. This is a massive feat of power from Fire Lord Ozai's firebending is absolutely insane. And there's no way you're gonna tell me that this cannot destroy like the entirety of Kyoshi village or something like that. Yeah, I think it easily destroys that. And I mean, he was also planning on taking over Ba Sing Se, the entirety of Ba Sing Se, because of this power that he now had. So the Avatar Andy in his Avatar states his firebending should be greater than both Fire Lord Ozai and Iroh, which is obviously just implies him to be far above building level or multi-building level in terms of firebending destructive power. Yeah, that's what I truly believe based on the feats and facts we've actually been given. Now moving on to water. Now this is the one that's going to be a bit theoretical, hypothetical, whichever the one it is. The reason why I'm saying that is because technically, right, with the large enough water source and in the Avatar state, you could technically create a massive wave or a tsunami that could wipe out towns to entire cities. Yeah, I just said that. it's the honest truth, because we do see quite a few benders using water bending at an extreme level, with them being able to create waves. We saw Aang kind of be able to do that earlier on, and when Aang was taken over by the ocean spirit's wrath, he also could create massive waves that towered above the worlds. And the ocean spirit is obviously not exactly Aang's power, but Aang's power should be quite relative or greater than the ocean spirit's power, which is actually pretty insane in my opinion, because if he has a large enough water source, and in the Avatar state you could technically really create these massive waves of water that should be able to just destroy entire towns or maybe even cities. And then there's obviously earth and air. Now, these two are the absolute most powerful in my opinion, right? Because for starters, Aang can create powerful kind of releases or shock waves with airbending that can destroy villages with absolute ease, and that's like the low ball of it. And then he can do kind of the similar thing with earthbending as well, which is absolutely insane. I mean, airbending on its own, he could easily destroy boulders. It would earthbending easily destroy buildings and pillars and whatever. So these are like really high tier destructive elements in my personal opinion. I mean, Aang, when he fought against Bumi, was able to create a bit of a vacuum and redirect a massive boulder Bumi has directed at him, which is pretty insane, because this vacuum thing was created in a couple of seconds with Aang just in his base form. So a more experienced Aang in the Avatar state would be able to create this at a far greater extent and possibly be able to create an actual proper tornado. And tornadoes are insanely destructive, with them being easily able to destroy towns and sometimes cause massive amounts of destruction to entire cities. So that also shows how really powerful Aang could have been with the element of air just by that alone. But that's not the only thing he actually has with the element of air. The reason why I'm saying this is because Avatar Kyoshi blew away an island, her island, with airbending. Like, she could have used a couple other elements perhaps, but we never really saw her use any, and from what we see, she's primarily using airbending, and she blew away her entire island from the mainland, which is a massive feat of power. And apparently some calculations have shown this a feat of power to be around a country level feat. Boom. She is powerful, and I know it's not Avatar Aang, but he should be able to do things quite similar or relative to those tiers, regardless of us not really seeing it. So that really shows how powerful the element of air actually is. Then in terms of earthbending, also the ability that Avatar Kyoshi being able to separate her island to the tectonic plate is an absolute insane feat of power on its own. And again, you can easily destroy boulders, pillars, buildings, entire villages with just general earthbending abilities. And there was also the fact that Avatar Sito was able to cause multiple volcanoes to erupt. Now, just causing one volcano to erupt has been calculated to be around nuclear level, nuclear explosion, obviously. That is pretty big, because nukes have been kind of implied to be able to destroy entire cities, which is absolutely insane. But he didn't just cause one volcano to erupt, did he? No, he caused multiple, which is even greater. So yeah, earthbending, airbending, really powerful. Now let's round it all up, okay? In terms of pure physical strength, he's above the normal humans of levels of physical strength, maybe like superhuman levels of physical strength. In terms of speed, his reactive speed is probably faster than that of lightning. His movement speed, well, he can run on water and move as fast as the wind, and people can barely acknowledge his movements because of that. His durability is really insane, because he could take attacks that could cause craters in the ground, as well as destroy pillars. And his hand-to-hand combat is also really insane, as he could keep up with people who are much greater and more experienced than he is in battle. That's obviously really insane. And in terms of power, well, each of the elements would imply him to be far above just building level, and firebending on its own would imply him to be around village level, or most likely greater. Water bending would put him around town to city level, with a large enough water source and the Avatar state, obviously. And then airbending is absolutely insane, it being lowballed possibly at like town level, him being able to easily create tornadoes, or which could maybe even destroy cities. And then the absolute power of it is possibly at a country level feat, with him being able to blow away an entire island, which is pretty insane. And then obviously earthbending, also lowball, destroy like villages or towns or whatever. And then highball, multi-city level, because that's the actual level of power required to cause multiple volcanoes to erupt. So yeah, the Avatar is really powerful. Avatar Aang is really powerful, and it's unfortunate sometimes that the show wasn't as flashy and didn't just show the true power of these characters, because if it did, well, we'd be seeing a lot greater, bigger, more destructive feats of power from them. Anyway, that's all I got for y'all today. I'm sure many people got a lot of comments and thoughts about that. If y'all do, you can leave them down below. I'd love to see them. This is MC Info, and I'm out.